If Florida State spends the money in the portal, the offensive losses can be offset, and Florida State can be a good offense. But I don't think that's going to happen.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the nation's #1 place to get all your sports pods. We're going to be discussing Florida State in terms of ranking which players really need to be brought into the fold by position. Is it offensive line, quarterback, etc.? We'll talk about that later on in the show. We're going to be talking about the 5 guys that are the biggest losses so far on offense. It's not as bad as it may seem, but there are certainly players we need to discuss. But overall, we're just going to go down the list. This is not a take. This is just bottom line math. Who's lost on the offensive side of the ball for the Noles? Go over some thoughts about how they contributed and give my overall opinion on it. But again, it's something you can overcome if Florida State's administration does something, and I don't think they will. But I'll give my thoughts on that again here in just a minute. Here's the list. Offensively, I'm just going to go quarterback down the list to offensive line. Brock Glenn has departed. I'm just doing scholarship players, by the way. I think he's a guy that is a pretty darn good player for the right system. He's not great for Gus Malzahn's system. He was a third-year player at Florida State this past season. Didn't work out for Brock. He's a good guy. Former Elite 11 quarterback, but he's just not the mobile quarterback that Gus Malzahn wants. He could run, but I'm talking about purely the ability to make guys miss with what I personally call shake, making defenders miss one-on-one, almost like a running back or receiver. That's what Gus really prefers, and he does not fit that. Gavin Sawchuk, the transfer in from Oklahoma this past year, running back. Cam Davis, the stud recruit out of Georgia, it didn't happen for him. He got banged up. Then he barely played this past season. And then Jalen Lucas, who started his career at Indiana. He's a kid out of Louisiana, went to IU, then transferred to Florida State. He's not very big, but even though he's diminutive in size, his speed and athleticism would certainly be an asset to Florida State. I don't think they used him nearly enough this past season. He's gone as well. So you've lost 3 different running backs there. Jayvan Boggs, Camden Fryer, Elijah Moore. These are the guys that I've got written down. And by the way, if I miss anybody, please comment in the YouTube page. I'll be happy to address it. But I just went through the list and just wrote these down off the depth chart, etc. Boggs was scheduled to be a starter, got banged up, barely played this year, redshirted, hits the portal. I think that's a major loss. Camden Fryer, I don't think was going to play much. Elijah Moore, we kept hearing about it, then it didn't happen. That one's a little puzzling to me. At tight end, this is the biggest positional loss. Landen Thomas and Randy Pittman. Those were your 2 most talented guys, probably, and Pittman was the most versatile. Remember the game against Virginia? Threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and ran in a touchdown. That is incredible. So that hurts. Offensive line, their bigger losses are just the fact that they brought in portal guys last year that had 1 year. To that end, they still have lost Lucas Simmons, Ty Hilton, I want to try to pronounce this properly, Manasi Atite, and Mario Nash Jr. Like, those are the guys that I know of. Nash in particular, I'm concerned about long-term, but he hadn't played yet, so I can't really rank him high. But super talented. Lucas Simmons had played a little. I thought he was going to start this next year. He's in the portal now. That's like one of the latest additions to the portal. So that is a problem. With that being in mind, I want to rank the guys here in terms of what I think are the biggest losses. This is just my opinion. It's subjective. Looking at it from how they played in terms of situationally, what their upside was, the position value, all those different things come into play. But I'm going to go ahead and say I'm very biased. I am a big Randy Pittman fan because in Gus Malzahn's offense, you need tight ends that can play in the hip, as they call it, or the H-back, play attached if you have to, play in the slot, obviously, to block and catch, and sometimes be in the backfield. And Randy even, again, he played Wildcat quarterback. That versatility combined with him knowing the playbook allowed FSU to go fast and not have to substitute, because if you sub, then the defense is allowed to sub. Randy did his business and understood the formations and all that, and Florida State won because of it. They won a lot of formational situations. They put teams in bad spots. Their offense was pretty explosive this year. Without tight ends like that, Gus's offense is mitigated. He has to have extremely versatile tight ends / H-backs. Pittman is as good a player for that as anybody. So he is by far, to me, the number one loss so far. But that's just my opinion. Number 2, Boggs. And this is somewhat of a reach because he didn't play much, but he earned a starting spot at Florida State University before ever playing a game. Not many guys do that. And I know it's unfortunate that he was banged up. But anytime a guy that can come in at any spot and earn a starting role at a major institution, that's impressive. And he had, like, for those who don't know, he played at Cocoa High School in Florida, so you like to keep the Cocoa kids and the state of Florida players at home as much as possible. And he was the all-time leader, I believe it was in yardage or catches. I forget. I think it's yardage in the state of Florida as a wide receiver. He's productive. That's a loss. Landen Thomas, another guy, just could not stay healthy. Super talented. Played quite a bit as a freshman, was the starter at the end of his freshman year at tight end. Banged up for the majority of this past season. He's in the portal. That's another guy with Pittman. Like, your 2 most talented guys at tight end are gone. That's rough. Number 4, Lucas Simmons. This is more about position than anything else. He's an offensive tackle. I've stood next to him. He's at least 6'7". That is a big dude. I remember him from his high school recruiting days. Really talented, athletic kid, but just didn't work out for whatever reason. He's decided to take his talents elsewhere. He's got 2 years of eligibility. Good luck to Lucas Simmons. And then I put Jaylen Lucas. You can put Mario Nash as an extra because he's another guy like Lucas Simmons. It's very talented, but didn't play yet. Jaylen Lucas is another guy kind of like Pittman that you could move in different places, play him at running back, play him in the slot, use him as a motion man. Very frustrating to go up against players like Jaylen Lucas. I think he's a player that could have helped Florida State more, but I understand that not being utilized much during the 2025 season probably led to his departure. So I get it. Not much else you can really say about that, but it is tough. When we come back, I want to talk about the positional needs, just rank the offensive spots. It may surprise you a little bit in terms of what I have next, but to be honest with you, it shouldn't, because again, you got to think about who's the coordinator, how it works, and what Florida State's got to do to win. So we're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick it off with the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. So again, this is pretty straightforward. 6 to 7:30 is when it's going to happen on Friday nights. So the big games are NBA's busy on Friday nights. Right in the app, very simple. You can find out what they've got going on. Boost bonuses and surprises. Timing's perfect right before the games and right before the weekend starts. So before tip-off, check out FanDuel's app. See what's going on with NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Some hoops, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday night energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And we are also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like the college football season, and with the big playoffs going on, we got Florida State out of it, but that doesn't mean there isn't really good games to talk about. And there's going to be a lot of excitement with it going on with Ohio State playing Miami tonight. We've got other games at the playoffs, tailgates, the stadiums, all the things going on right there in the middle of it, the energy in the stands, everything you got going on. It's a lot of fun, but getting tickets to big games can be a really big hassle. That's why Game Time gives you, the fan, the advantage back. It's the easy way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. If you check that out, all you have to do is go into the app, click on whatever it is you're looking for. Just type in a name of a team, Florida State or whoever it is at any point for any type of game, basketball, football, anything else. And then you just pick it. Click on that, find the seat you want. And then once you click on the seat, you can see your seat view. It is very easy with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. If you want to take your game to the next level, check out our Everydayer Club. Down in the description below, there is a link. You can get your pods on the go with no ads. So any type of audio platform, whether you're Spotify, Apple, Podbean, or anything else. Plus, you get the Discord, all the different advantages with that. You can check out and join in on. I check it just about every day. We're starting to get it rolling on the Discord. It's a lot of fun. Check out the Everydayer Club right here with Locked On Seminoles. We're going to be discussing my 5 positional needs in this abbreviated Locked On Seminoles. By the way, for the rest of the week, these are going to be shorter shows. I'm in a hotel. I do not trust the internet connection at all. It's just the way it is. I'm going to be on the road until Tuesday of next week. So I'm going to do like 15-minute shows, give or take, and just do shorter ones because it's the best way to go. I'm not going to have the problems that I did yesterday trying to download a show for 2 hours. That was crazy. So we're going to do shorter shows. And right now I want to rank the positions that they need to hit in the portal. And I'm probably going to look at this differently than most. If you want to debate it, fire away. But this is the way I look at it. I'm not going to go quarterback like most people. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat before I get into 1 through, whatever. It's pretty straightforward for me. They have to hit offensive line. And I don't mean it in the sense of quantity, quality. And the stuff that I was told yesterday about prices for elite players, this was at a different position, but still made me about fall over. There's one player I've been told that's been offered $4 million in the portal, and it is not a quarterback. That is concerning. So with that being stated, I think Florida State needs 1 or 2 really good offensive linemen and maybe 1 or 2 backups or guys that could compete if they win the job, so be it, but they're not guaranteed a spot, more or less. There's a few guys. They need at least 2 guys they bring in from the portal. They're dudes. And again, the numbers that I'm being given, I question whether Florida State's administration is willing to do this. I'm talking super, like way more than I even thought. Like you're going to pay a couple $1 million for offense, like a better offensive line, especially tackles. That's kind of where I'm seeing some of this. It makes me very nervous because college football, not just Florida State, but college football is headed in a very dangerous spot where only about 5 or 10 teams are willing to pay that way, and it's going to become completely isolated at the top. And Florida State's not in that group, I can assure you. But they can do it for a few players. I know they've offered over $1 million to one guy. But anyway, offensive tackles are about the rarest thing to get in the portal. For whatever reason, they don't transfer much. But Florida State needs at least one that is a dude, not a backup. Not he played 150 snaps last year, a bona fide, no doubt about it, like he could play at Ohio State offensive tackle. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I do not. Number one, there may not be one in the portal, being honest. Number two, even if there was, teams like Ohio State would probably outbid Florida State. We'll see what happens. But right now, like looking at the offensive line list, just in general, not just offensive tackle, it is very concerning. Secondarily, I will go quarterback, but in a different way. I still think Kevin Sperry should be your main guy, but you need to bring in somebody to compete with him. And Jaden O'Neal, like you need 3 guys. And I would take another guy too if it's the perfect scenario. This is very specific. Somebody that knows that he's a backup, that he's helping the younger players. He played at the D2 level, FCS or whatever. And if he shocks everybody and wins the job, great. But he's told your main job is to compete, run the scout team, etc. He needs to fit the offense, all those things. But unless you just are perfect, you're not going to play. Trying to find that guy is hard. So if they don't get a second quarterback, I get it. But they got to get somebody, though, that's at least willing to compete. And I know they're going after Colton Joseph. There's talk about Anthony Calandria, etc. I don't know if they would beat out Sperry, but whoever it is, they've got to bring in somebody that's competitive. I don't know if they should just tell somebody, though, hey, you're going to be the guy. Because I think it sets the wrong precedent because Sperry's been through the offseason training. He went through spring ball, blah, 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 with everybody else, and he was here last year. I think he should be given a shot to start. But again, that's a different rabbit hole to go down. So I got quarterback number 2 after offensive line. Third might surprise people a little bit, but it's tight end. It's not running back. It's not wide receiver. It's tight end. Again, in Gus Malzahn's offense, you need intelligent players that are extremely versatile in terms of position. Pittman did everything. Played running back, quarterback, H-back, tight end, and flex tight end. You're not going to find many guys like that, and I'm not saying you will. But you need 2 portal guys at minimum at tight end because you're probably not going to replace Randy with one guy. That's going to be rough. Also, and disappointingly, You're probably not going to replace Landen in terms of just athleticism and frame. You could. It's possible. It's harder to replace Randy. But Thomas is a really talented guy. He couldn't stay healthy. How much are they going to spend there? I haven't heard anything about numbers at tight end. It wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, if they go into the portal and just get one really good tight end, and again, it's got to be somebody extremely versatile and willing to do that. Like, they got to know the playbook stone cold so they can run their offense without substituting. And that tight end plays so many spots. You mitigate how many offensive formations you can run unless that guy is stone cold, knows it. That's an important one. I would be okay if they just took one and then took another guy, kind of like Lofton, the young guy that got banged up last year. He's very talented. And they just went that direction. I'm cool with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they took another guy just a blocking tight end, kind of like Marcus and Doug. Like, he's a horse. That was a big dude. I'm cool with that too. Now, running back is the one spot to kind of finish this out that you get down to running back and receiver. Like, I'm assuming here, for the record, before I even get into receiver, I'm going to put it last, that Deuce is staying. That's the rumor. Lewane's staying. That's the rumor. And on top of that, Makai's staying. What I'm going by here is that all three are definitely staying. I can only guess. If any one of those three leave, things change. Just stating that, because I would put it above running back. But if you got three guys that I think have NFL potential in your starting lineup, you're not exactly in a terrible spot at receiver. And I trust Coach Harris at receiver too. He's a good coach. But running back is weird. We heard Cromwell was going to be the guy last summer. And just no matter what you heard about any player, they'd play quite a bit. Then they disappear. Whether it was injury, whether it wasn't, whatever. The injury report stuff that Florida State went with from Norvell was garbage. Oh, so-and-so's fine, and then they wouldn't play for 3. Come on. So we couldn't trust anything. Players got no consistency with reps within the game, let alone week to week. Like, they'd play in the first quarter, then play again in the third. Like, there was no consistency. A running back wouldn't get lathered up. So it's hard to grade these guys. But Chrome is really talented. I assume Sam Singleton, those are the two, I would assume. After that, I don't know. Salchuk is in the transfer portal. I think they need one guy because they lost Cam, they lost Jalen. You got variety of different players in addition to Salchuk. They got to take at least one. My question is, how much do you go into the style of it? You just want a really good player, and whatever style it is, you take it? I don't know. Because, Chrome is really talented. I'm not denying that. I think he has a chance to be a multi-year NFL player. And that's saying something at the NFL level, because even first-round picks at running back sometimes only last 2 or 3 years. It's hard. But Chrome is a really good starting point. And Singleton's, I always thought he was pretty good, and he kind of got raw deal early on. He played better last year than what some people projected. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch. We'll see what happens after that. But they need at least one guy. They've got a good running back coming in the recruiting class. If you get one transfer running back, you're in a pretty good spot. Now, with receiver, this is where it's tricky. Again, I'm assuming that all of Deuce, Wayne, and Mackay are coming back to Florida State. If that's the case, you lost Moore, you lost Fryer. Boggs hurts, but he still wasn't in the starting lineup, literally, although he earned that job in fall camp. They need one guy that's willing to come off the bench. That's a talented player. They can run a little bit of everything, kind of be Mr. Versatility, kind of like a Jalen Lucas in a way, although he's technically listed as a running back. But they also need a guy that, for lack of a better term, that's a starter, because at some point during the year, it's just nature of the beast. One of these guys is going down for multiple weeks. Multiple. And Lord help Florida State if that's Deuce, because that's a special player. Mackay, kind of the same thing. Like, you need somebody that's willing to know going into the season, barring something very unforeseen, you're not going to start, but you have to be ready for that. That's a tough task for Florida State or any other school, but you got to have that first guy off the bench that's a dude. Considering Florida State's won 7 games the last 2 years, how are they going to afford that without overpaying? I'm concerned about it. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know which guys they're really targeting. There's a few things, rumors on Knowles 24/7, et cetera, but they need somebody with proven productivity, not somebody that's just fast, not just somebody that was ranked high. What are his college stats. And to that end, I want to end this pod on this note. I don't think there are very many guys that Florida State or anybody should consider viable without the following. Did they play at least 200 snaps last year? That's a stat that I got from my guy, Manny Navarro from The Athletic, like great guy. And he was talking to like different colleges. That's one of the things that colleges look at, and I'm sure Florida State does too. Let's find out what they get at receiver this next year, because again, it's not going to be easy. They got some pretty good players have been starting lineup. Can they get somebody that has 200 snap that is proven, but doesn't necessarily get the starting nod? Because you only got 3 guys that you're going to start. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to do the same thing with the defensive roster for tomorrow's show. We're going to have some fun with that. It's a little bit more convoluted even than offense. Thank you very much for checking out Locked On Seminoles. We will see you again tomorrow.